Hello, everyone. Happy to see you all join the 7DS Africa Veteran Networking Exchange. My name is Francis Agama, and I am part of the DS Africa Coordinating Center team based at the University of Cape Town. My role is the project coordinator, and I'm glad to welcome you all to this virtual networking exchange. You should have access to the chat. So you can put your name as a way of introducing yourself in the chat as well. Unfortunately, you are unable to unmute to talk. To begin with, we will start with an icebreaker. It's a Mentimeter poll. So all that I require from you all is to scan the QR code you are seeing on your screen. Or you can go to menti.com and then you input the code 666 99195. You scan the code, or you go to menti.com and then you put the code 666 99195. And the question is, from what country are you joining today's meeting? You go to menti.com, you put in the code 666 99195, or you can scan the QR code. I can see that we are over 100, and at the moment I have 35 responses. So please scan the QR code to put in the code, or you go to menti.com and then you can as well put in the code you are seeing on the screen. The code is 666 99195. You go to menti.com or you scan the QR code. We see delegates from South Africa, from the United States, from Botswana, from Belgium, from Senegal, from Guinea Conakry, from Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, Germany, Ghana, showing the diversity of the delegates we have on the call today. Please scan the QR code or you visit menti.com and then you answer the question, from what country are you joining today's meeting? I see 67 responses so far, and we have almost 120 people on the call now. To those joining now, you scan the QR code and you input the code, or you visit menti.com, as you can see from the top, and then you use the code 666 99195. 666 99195. 666 99195. I'm waiting to get 100 responses, then I move on to the next item on the agenda. Those joining, we want to have a sense of where you are joining the meeting from. And for us to have that, you have to either scan the QR code you are seeing on the screen I'm sharing and input the code, or you visit menti.com and key in the code 666 99195. I have 76 responses, about 24 more. Then we'll move to the next agenda item. We want to have a sense of which country you are joining us from. We see Ethiopia, we see Mali, we see Senegal, Ivory Coast. Interesting. Please scan the code or go to menti.com and put in the code. to let us know the country you are joining us from. While you do so, I'll leave it on. You can still provide your responses. I will quickly move to the next slide. So I'm just giving you an overview of what to expect from today's virtual networking exchange. We've already begun the welcoming and the icebreaker, which is still on. Next, we'll have an overview of what the networking exchange is about. And then we'll get an update from the coordinating center. From there, we will move to networking round one. We have 3 breakout rooms with at least 2 presenters in each breakout room. It will run for about 40 to 45 minutes. Then we come back again. Following after an icebreaker, we will move on to networking round 2, which will also have 3 breakout rooms. After that, we'll come to networking round 3, which is a more of a plenary session. Just to talk about some few logistics, at the moment, all microphones are muted, but you will have a chance to unmute your microphones when we move into the breakout sessions. The session is being recorded. The breakout sessions will also be recorded, and all the recordings will be made available on the DS Africa YouTube channel. All the various presentation slides that will be showcased today is already available on the DS Africa website. But then all other outstanding presentation slides will be made available as well. So once you visit the Networking Exchange page, you can have access to the slides and the various recordings. On the Networking Exchange page, you would also find some information about the various organizations and projects that will be presenting to give you a fair idea of which breakout sessions you will join. Okay, I will hand over to the working group chair to give us an overview of what the DS Africa Networking Exchange is all about. Over to you, Amin.
Thank you very much, Francis, for such a warm welcome. Once again, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, from wherever you're joining us. My name is Musa Aminu. I pivot from the Inform Africa Research Hub, where I support the project as a communication specialist, science communication specialist, also a neuroscientist and the chairperson for this, for the Partnership and Outreach Working Group, which essentially works closely with the Coordinating Center to bring about this virtual networking exchange event. Just to give context, the networking exchange event has been going on since the inception of the consortium. Since 2021, we've successfully held 6 networking exchange events. And the essence of having this platform is to essentially bring researchers, partners across industries to basically speak to the context of data science and health activities as well as research. But most importantly, as the name implies, to give opportunity to meet potential partners and prospective collaborators. Next slide. So just to also speak to what we've been able to do through the Partnership and Outreach Working Group, to speak to the networking exchange as a model for effective partnership and collaboration in the context of the data science and health research ecosystem. We have recently been able to publish a paper that essentially speaks to this context. And in this paper, we use the DSI Africa Consortium as a model, highlighting the 38 projects across the continent and all the partnerships, whether intra or external, that essentially make up this ecosystem that produces an effective model for partnership and collaboration. I'll say a few things also to how successful the networking exchange has been in terms of partnerships and collaborations. Since 2021, as I mentioned earlier, we've seen an increase in the participation in this networking exchange event. with our representation across the entire continent, most notably from West Africa, as you see in the, maybe I have a pointer to just touch on Nigeria, South Africa, and where we have the darker shades on the globe that shows the density of the delegates that have been represented in terms of being part of this partnership and outreach. Sorry, in terms of this networking exchange activities. It's also important to note that this event happens both in person and virtually, as we are currently having today. And we've also been able to essentially measure the effectiveness of this model as an approach or as a point of entry into creating collaborations and partnerships. And we've seen the response from delegates effectively showing that between, I think, 60 to 80% or 60 to 100% delegates alluded to the fact that this is very effective in terms of how projects or researchers are able to find collaborators or partner with those who are speaking to the context of the work they are doing. This also speaks to um, the access that delegates have been able to have to future collaborators, as you see in the bar chart on the right, bottom right corner. And I think from my end, that is me for now until I meet with you again in the breakout session. Thank you and over. I think it's, sorry, just before I go, it's maybe valuable to include the link to this paper so our delegates are able to see more fine details of the paper in the chat. Thanks, Francis, and over.
Thanks, Aminu, for that overview of the East Africa Networking Exchange. Our next speaker to give an overview of the Coordinating Center and the major resources that we have been able to put together is Michelle Skelton. So Michelle will share her screen and then she will be able to present to us.
Thanks.
Over to you, Michelle.
Thanks so much. Let me just get my screen. Yeah. And 1 second.
While Michelle is putting up her slides, those who join late, we put together a Mentimeter poll just to gauge from which countries you are joining from. So you can go to menti.com and then you put in the code 666999195. Menti.com with the code 666999195. Michelle, you want to swap your presentation so we could see the full?
Sure. Oh.
Yes,
Okay.
it's better.
Okay, sure. Okay, so can I go?
Yes.
So thanks so much for this opportunity just to share some updates from the Coordinating Center. So I just wanted to share some of the resources, of course, that we have at the consortium. And some of you may know these already and some of you may not. So I just wanted to touch on the Alwazi Open Data Science Platform. So this platform is really a resource that enables DSI and other folks from the broader scientific community to find and access data, select tools and workflows that run analysis on your choice of computing environments, and this is all through use of workspaces. So this is initially set up for the DSI community, but I think the idea is, of course, to share this resource more broadly with the scientific community. So please do explore this site. And here is the website, alwazi.org. So have a look at that. Just to dive a bit deeper into the offering. So we look at the Alwazi catalog, and here you can explore the data sets that have come out of the consortium, and these are omics, demographic and health, geospatial and image data. So you can have a look at the catalog for those. And I'll just share the catalog view here. So we have about 100 data sets from the various DSI projects. And these are the various domains that they cover, which countries they come from, and then whether they're accessible or not. So here's the access pathway. And often it leads to another repository that you need to apply for access. And I'm not sure if any of them at the moment are open access, but you can go and explore that. But in addition to that, of course, when you access the site, you need to register. And the catalog really uses the FAIR principles for sharing and making this data more visible. So that's the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So it's based on those principles. But I think what I wanted to share was that if you need a resource to share your own data, just in terms of making your data more findable. So you're not going to store your data in this repository. It's just the metadata, and so that your data is more visible to the scientific community. And this is really great for funders to see, for governments to see, and for your institution. So you can link to the site, register, and it asks you for this information. And of course, there is also a help desk. So I hope that people will use this resource. And I think Francis already touched on the resource catalog. We are also collecting more broadly, not just data, not just human and health data, but we're also collecting the resources across the consortium. At the moment, we have 340, and this varies from training and capacity building resources, protocols, data resources, I suppose, as well as policies and guidelines and so on. So continue looking at this space, but we're also trying to make it more effective and looking at DRIs for these various resources. So we're looking into that and the costs involved so that we can make these resources available to folks in the community for the next 5 years or so. So we're working on that one as well. And another, obviously, group of researchers that we've worked with is the H3Africa Consortium, and that was really focused on genomics and the environment. And here too, there's an H3Africa data and biospecimen catalog. From 19 studies, there's 37 data sets, but they're also accessible to the broader research community, over 2,300 biospecimens in biorepositories. There's a biorepository in Nigeria, there's one in Uganda and in South Africa. So these are accessible. So please do also explore this with this catalog, and I'll just go to the next page where you can see some of the studies that have deposited the data sets and biospecimens. And these are sitting in the EGA, but are accessible through a H3Africa DBAC, and I'll just speak about that real quick after this. So yes, so these are genomic data, and here's the types of studies and so on. Yeah, so have a look at that. So who oversees access to this data and biospecimens is the H3Africa Data and Biospecimen Access Committee. So we have a group of about 13 to 14 people that serve on this committee. It's an interdisciplinary committee, so they're scientists, legal experts in biomedical data sharing, ethics folks, governance folks, biobanking, and so on. Here's the list. And of course, they're responsible for reviewing and approving requests, maintaining data security and integrity, and also facilitating fair access to the data and monitoring compliance. And Shona is the secretariat at the moment for this, and she can be contacted on Shona. Here's her email. So please reach out to her if you are interested in accessing this data, but also go to the website because you also have to register there. But another thing I wanted to say was that this current DBAC is happy to expand the service and oversee data sharing for other groups. If your data is sitting, for instance, in Senegal, but you don't have a committee to oversee access to that and applications to that, we can set up a call with you to talk about how can the DBAC help you in terms of sharing your data, but also, of course, in a very responsible way. So I just wanted to share that with the group, that the H3Africa DBAC is available to consult more broadly on the continent and not just for this consortium. So I just wanted to also talk about upcoming events. And of course, the virtual network exchange is happening today. We have an in-person network exchange happening the 18th of May in Mombasa. If you're in the area, and you can reach out to Francis to see if you can attend. But we're also working on an African Health Data Systems workshop. This is really looking at how can we improve across the continent data linkage, data interoperability, and then integration into health systems, trying to bring the sort of the high-level players that sit in the e-health research, e-health architecture, bringing them towards the communities of practice, the research programs, the AI and digital innovators. So trying to bring those communities together to see what's actually happening. Can we improve interoperability? Can we improve integration? Because there are obviously still challenges because we're not achieving complete interoperability nationally and also across the continent. So that's just from me. Thank you so much for the time. Should I stop sharing?
Yes.
Can you maybe start? Okay, there we go.
Thanks, Michelle, for the overview and update on what the Coordinating Center has to offer. To those of you who joined a little bit late, we had our first icebreaker, and the question is, from what country are you joining today's meeting from? We just want to have a sense of the country that you are joining from. To provide your responses, you can either scan the QR code in the screen that I'm sharing, or you can equally go to menti.com and put in the code 66699195, as you can see in the screen. At the moment, we are over 150 people on the call, and I'm expecting more than 100 responses to this question. From what country are you joining today's meeting? You do that by scanning the QR code on the screen or visiting menti.com, and then you put in the code 66699195. We see representations from Namibia, representation from the Gambia, representation from Belgium as well. Please provide your responses. From what country are you joining today's virtual networking exchange from? You either scan the QR code or you visit menti.com and you put in the code 66699195. I'm waiting to reach about 120 before I move on to the next agenda item. Just provide a response to which country you are joining from. You see representations from the United Kingdom. That is interested. See representation from Burkina Faso, Rwanda, Botswana, Tanzania. Very good, very good. Please provide your responses before we move to the next agenda item. I will leave this poll on so you can continue to submit your responses. The question is, from what country are you joining today's session from? Very soon, we will be moving to the first networking round. The title for this networking round is Strengthening the Collaborative Core, Trust Networks, and Shared Infrastructure. There are 3 breakout rooms. The first room is for capacity building and training programs. The second room is collaborative research project opportunities. And the third room is data infrastructure and research synergies. For each breakout room, there will be at least 2 presentations, as you could see in the slide that I'm sharing. At the moment, the breakout rooms have been opened. The name of each breakout room is as shown on the slide here. Room 1, capacity building. Room 2, collaborative research projects. And then room 3, data infrastructure and research synergies. To join the breakout room, all that you have to do is that at the bottom of the Zoom interface, you see a set of Zoom functions or buttons. You will see one that is named Breakout Rooms. Once you click on the Breakout Rooms icon, you can select the breakout room of your choice to join. For some of you, you might see a circle with 3 dots in it. That is the More icon on the Zoom functionality. Once you click on the More icon, you will see the pop-ups that there will be one for breakout room. So you click on that and you join the breakout room of your choice. So there are 2 options to join the breakout rooms. Either click on the breakout rooms function you see here, as I'm showing in the slide I'm sharing, or some of you see a More function, which is 3 dots inside a circle. Once you click on it, you should be able to join the breakout rooms of your choice. I see some of you have already started joining the breakout rooms. Please do so. If you have a challenge in joining the breakout rooms, just let me know in the chat and I will assign you to the breakout room of your choice.
Francis,
So
could
room
you
one-
assign me Francis Crawley? Because I don't seem to go automatically and I cannot choose.
Okay.
Hi, Francis. I think you can send me to my room as well, room 3.
Okay. Just give me a second. We will be beginning the networking round 2, and the theme is expanding the data science ecosystem, cross-sector partnerships for scalable impact. In this networking rounds, there are 3 breakout rooms. Room 1 is from data to discovery. Room 2, industry and innovation partnership. And room 3 is research centers. The various breakout rooms have been opened, and then please join the breakout room by clicking on the breakout room function on the Zoom functionality, as you can see below. Or you could see 3 dots in a circle. You could see 3 dots in a circle. Click on that, and then you will see breakout room. If you are unable to join the breakout room, please put in the chat the room you would want to join, and I will assign you there.
Is Tumaya?
Yes, I'm here, Michelle.
Okay, should I just go ahead?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. So it's awesome to have in the Volgro team here for the next session, and also the folks from Cassava Technology. So the next session is from research to commercialization, co-designing sustainable investment pathways. So I'm going to introduce the 3 speakers from Volgro Africa, and then I will introduce Hein after that. So I think all of them are here, right? So I'm going to start with Rob Bayer. Really great to have Rob again on the exchange and with DSI. So Rob is Vulgro Africa's co-founder and executive chairman. He brings a unique combination of seasoned experience in business, social entrepreneurship, education, and technology. He is a visionary leader who has lived in Kenya for over 20 years and is familiar with the unique challenges that entrepreneurs face when it comes to sustainability and scaling within the African context. So welcome, Rob, and thanks for joining us again. And then also from the Vulgro team, Wilfred Njagi. So great to have Wilfred here again as well. So he's the co-founder and CEO of Vulgro Africa. He holds an MBA from the University of Milan and has a background in computer science. He is well plugged into the African entrepreneurial ecosystem, having worked at the Africa Venture Capital Association early in his career. He's also an angel investor and transaction advisor. He has lived and worked in the Middle East, in India, and East Africa. He ventured into social enterprise business incubation a decade ago and during a fellowship at Vulgro India in 2013, and after which he took the challenge to scale Vulgro in Africa. So he currently serves on the board of Pollinate Impact and also investment committees of Khazanah Fund and Jaza Rift Ventures. He has also been part of AI for Global Health Advisory Group set up by Duke University's Innovation in Health program, recognized as Africa's most respected CEO in 2022, and also part of MB 100 winners as well. And so Wilfred continues to champion African entrepreneurship, locally led innovation, and scalable impact across the continent. Welcome, Wilfred. Good to see you again. Okay, so also from the Vulgro team, we have Dr. Ken Simiya. And so he is the director of, I think if you can put on your screen, that will be really great if you're there. He's also the director of translational research and innovation at Vulgro Africa. He has 20 years experience in designing and scaling innovation portfolios that move research from lab to market. So he's also championed big funds, over $175 million in innovation investment across USAID, Grand Challenges Canada, and the University of Maryland, spanning digital health, medtech, biotech, AI-enabled solutions, and blended finance across Africa and other low and middle income contexts. With deep expertise in research commercialization, innovation ecosystems, and academia and industry partners, he understands how to accelerate the journey from discovery to impact. He holds a PhD in biomedical sciences from the University of Toronto and a Bachelor of Law degree at the University of London. So welcome to the Vulgro team, and I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction, Michelle. So should we jump right into it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, apologies from Rob Bear. So on this call, it's going to be myself and Dr. Ken Simiyu. I'm happy to see some of you that we met in Addis Ababa last month at the workshop at Africa CDC. And yeah, good to see some of you here again. And we'll be walking you through our journey as an incubator, especially with the research to commercialization. How much time do we have, Michelle, so that we know?
I will ask Francis to answer that, Wilfred. We can guide us.
Yes,
So no,
the Vulgro team can have 20 minutes for presentation.
Okay, 20 minutes. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen. Just one second. Sharing my screen. One second. So we'll be we'll do a tag team between myself and Ken on the same. So I'll present some of the background slides, and Ken will come in to present more studies on the same. All right. So share screen. All right. Can you see that screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Maybe. Yeah. All right. So let's do a screen. Yeah, there you go. So this is a view graphica. This is our team. We are about 30 members of staff so far. The team has been growing, especially in the last 2-3 years. In the team, we have different backgrounds. We have biomedical engineers. We have certified financial analysts. We have pharmacists. So it's quite a diverse team with different lived and worked experiences. Sorry, how do I go? Okay. So yeah, now looking at our existence, why we exist and why we work. So our overall goal is always been around improving health and livelihoods by supporting local innovations, right? And that means we work at every level with different actors, different partners. We work with government because it's hard to achieve impact if you don't scale in the public sector. So we work very well with the public sector. In fact, today I was in a workshop with the different ministries of health here in Nairobi, and the work we are doing with JPIGO around Health Tech Hub Africa, which is how do you use public sector to scale digital health solutions. So we work very, very collaboratively with different ministries of health. We also add faith-based institutions in that bucket because here in Africa also they play a big role when it comes to scaling innovations. We also work with mission-aligned funders. So anyone else who is committed to the same mission of improving health and livelihoods, we consider them a friend and a partner. So we work, we convene sessions around maybe at the SANCAP Health Summit. We also convene sessions with Africa CDC through the Africa Digital Health Network. We've also had the Africa Health Tech Summit, which happens in Kigali, also, which is co-hosted with Africa CDC. So these convenings are one way where we bring mission-aligned partners in one room. We also work with private sector, where we look at private sector in two ways. One, they could provide what we call technical expertise through, some of them have what we call employee engagement programs. And in those employee engagement programs, they're able to second staff members to work with our innovators. Sometimes they also offer co-investment opportunities. For example, large pharmaceutical companies willing to invest in healthcare innovations in Africa. We also work with academic institutions, including universities, public research institutions, and the likes. In terms of the continuum, we work all the way from pre-product to pre-revenue, pre-scale, up to scale-up. At pre-product, we are looking at ideation, problem solution fit, and things like that. Then at pre-revenue, where companies are beginning to generate some revenues, we're trying to validate market validation, finding that the right product market fit, doing investor introductions, and things like that. Then on the other side, we have scale-ups, where once you've gone through incubation and you emerge on the other side, how do we support you with post-investment support? You've raised some funding from some of your partners. How do we come in to help you manage your investment and scale your solution, right? So we work across that continuum, pre-product all the way to scale up. This is our 10-year in a summary. So the last 10 years, we've worked with over 200 health tech startups. We've disbursed a little over $4 million. We've given technical assistance to these companies, and they've gone on to touch about 7 million lives. They've raised $43 million of revenues and $49 million of follow-on funding. And below is a list of some of the partners we work with, including Boehringer, Novartis, Sanofi, Lemeson, GIZ, Jepaigo, among many others. And you can see on the map that we are active in over 15 countries. This other map shows now the footprint by companies or by startups. All these are the different innovations we've worked with. Some of them might look familiar to you across the continent. Very, very heavy on East Africa side, but we've spread our wings across the entire continent. I'll invite Ken to share. We have 2 case studies. So Ken, you can come in here and share the research to scale case study.
Yeah. Thanks, Wilfred, and greetings to all of you. I'm glad to be here. So far what Wilfred has presented are examples of the success stories that Vilgro has been incubating or supported. So I want to transition slightly into an area where what happens when research now meets reality. That's the research to commercialization. And I'll use this, give 2 case studies. One is a success study, or what happens when you get things right, and what happens when you get things wrong. So the first case study is Zipline. Zipline, for those who may not know it, is an autonomous drone delivery for blood, vaccines, and medical supplies. It is mainly used in hard-to-reach areas or emergency cases. It was originally piloted in Rwanda, or started off in Rwanda, scaled in Rwanda, and now is also in Ghana. And it is essentially designed for last-mile health logistics. Now, Zipline is always touted as a success story. But why is it a success story? First, it identified a clear need. It delays in emergency blood delivery. So it started off as a blood delivery service. So would lead to lives lost. It was also integrated into the healthcare system, not just the hospitals, but also the health supply chain, where the blood comes from, the blood banks and the medical supplies organizations in those countries, and identified who the customer is, who would pay for it, and that was the government of Rwanda or the government of Ghana. And so that integration into the system is what enabled Zipline to be successful. It was also designed for operational simplicity in low resource settings. So the next case study is an example. Wilfred, next slide, of what happens when an innovation goes wrong. Because as I said, the examples we normally see are successful stories, but there are very many examples of innovations that really fail. And one is example which is often touted is IBM's Watson Health. It was one of the pioneer AI for diagnosing complex medical conditions, mainly differentiating different cancers, and had a lot of promise. It was widely marketed by IBM. IBM invested over $62 million. It worked with partners in select hospitals in the US. But after about 4 or 5 years, it was touted, it failed. It was not adapted by the system. And the reason why is first, there was no workflow fit. IBM did not, the Watson Health model did not integrate seamlessly into a hospital healthcare system. It required a doctor to log into a different system to feed it with the medical data so that it would give you a precision diagnosis. The second is it did not recognize that doctors' healthcare records are not structured. The doctors, different doctors write differently. They do abbreviations. The sentences are not complete. So the algorithms were built for a perfect system where the clinical data was perfect. But in real world, you have to appreciate when you build the data systems that that's not the case. And then there was no clear buyer. The hospitals were not sure that it's worth investing in it. It was expensive, and the user is not normally the buyer. It is somebody else has to pay for it, and either an insurance company or a government. And then, so the aggressive marketing of Watson Health exceeded just the expectations. So next slide. Wilfred. Yeah, Wilfred could talk on this and then I come back.
All right, thank you. So what works for us as Willgrow, these are the steps we take you when you apply. So number one, we are very good at screening and selection. Given some of the reasons Ken has explained earlier why innovations fail, we're able to apply context-specific selection to make sure that whatever you're building is relevant in the local context, right? Something might have worked elsewhere, but when you apply in the local context, it breaks or it stops working. So we make sure that we select those that are fit for purpose. The other thing we offer is very hands-on, customized technical assistance. And we also embed our portfolio managers to bolster the internal capacity of some of these startups. We also offer direct seed capital to the startups. That means we give seed funding of up to $50,000 up to $100,000 to some of the startups. We also do thematic calls. For example, like the way DSI Africa was able to do a data science-driven thematic call, we are also able to do such thematic calls. We've done, for example, we were the first ones to do an AI for health cohort funded by IDRC about 3 years ago. We've also done an eye care thematic call. We are soon going to do a snake bite and venom thematic call. So we are able to go very niche into thematic areas, especially the underrepresented areas and the neglected disease areas. As I said earlier, we also work within an ecosystem, so working very well with academia, private sector, and government. We also offer market intel or advisory services to companies that want to scale into the market. Maybe they don't qualify to enter our portfolio, but they still are willing to pay to acquire some of the insights that we have. So we're able to offer that at a small fee. We also are building a scale-up fund that will be giving up to $500,000 once it's fully launched. We're still fundraising for it. And this is to help, once you've gone through the entire incubation, what next? Can we give you another round of funding that will give you the impetus to scale across the globe? Now, as I had presented this slide earlier in Addis, if you're moving from research to commercialization, there is a bit of a paradigm shift that is needed, right? So in the old paradigm, mostly as a scientist, you're thinking about publications, right? Seminar papers, presentations, poster presentations. It's usually also very donor dependent. You're going to write a research grant, and the research in itself is the end goal. While in the new paradigm, when you think of commercialization, you're thinking of products. So you're moving from publications to products. Instead of seminar papers, you're thinking of patenting, right? You patent before you publish. You're also thinking of impact. How will this translate to actual lives saved? You're also thinking of a sustainable business model. Is there someone who is willing to pay for this? And can this become a sustainable business? So in the new paradigm, research is just a means to an end, and the end is impact, right? So everything you're doing is really translating to the end impact. Here is another slide. I think Ken, I can invite you back to talk to this slide.
So this slide just builds on what Wilfred has said in the preceding slide, and specifically for data scientists and data models. We need to understand the gap between research success and market adoption, and to understand that you can validate a prototype or a tool very effectively, but that does not guarantee that there will be commercial readiness or it will be accepted by the market. And typically what many researchers build are very accurate models. They have done very strong validation. They have successful pilots that in a small setting that it really can work. And of course, as Wilfred said, they publish. But the market needs something else. The market needs a business, something that can work, can be integrated into the current workflow. So you build a tool that adapts to the workflow, not expect the workflow to adapt to the tool. That's what the mistake, the example I gave about Watson Health. Watson Health built a tool and expected the workflow to adapt into that tool. You need to, at the onset, identify who will be the buyer, who will pay for it, and then the regulatory issues and a scalable product. Now, where it breaks is most people build for performance. You build a very magnificent and technically superior AI model or AI tool or data tool that uses data, but it's not for the workflow. There is no value for it. Then you need to also understand that the user does not necessarily mean they are the buyer. So the doctor is not necessarily the person who will buy the product. You need to identify the person who will actually pay for it, even if the doctor will be using it. Now, pilot success, of course, does not guarantee that it will be widely adopted. As Wilfred said, it could be different regions, different areas have different variations in their context. So you need to be context specific. And of course, a prototype is not a product. A prototype is just a tool. A product is a solution. So in the case of Zipline, for example, Zipline built a logistic solution. It did not build a drone. Anybody can build a drone to deliver blood, but you need an entire integrated system to do the logistic system. So Zipline or like Uber, those are logistic companies. They're not just, it's not just an app. That's how you look at it. And then, of course, the regulatory gaps need to be considered. Next slide. Yeah, so this is just reiterating what the data scientists need to consider when they are developing their products or tools. Before building the model, ask, is this solving a decision critical problem? Is it adding value to the user? Not that it can work, but is there any value? What is the value addition to the user? Who is going to pay for it? That's and as I said, the user is not necessarily the person who will pay for it. So you need to identify that who will buy it, not who will use it, and then develop how can we move from a prototype and then real life adoption. So those are some of the considerations I will leave with you. Thanks. Wilfred, to you.
Thanks, Ken. Now, as Ken was speaking, then it means that there are some steps you need to take to validate the user, to validate the market. And it starts with once you have your research, how do you identify what are the commercializable outputs of that research, right? Because research in itself is not commercializable. It has to be packaged in a product. So you identify the commercializable outputs, which could be, for example, an AI diagnostic software, right? Or a clinical decision support tool, or a genomics analytics platform, or a device or a software. Now, those are commercializable outputs, right? Once you have the commercializable output in mind, then you have to now do the validation of the technology, right? The fidelity of the technology. Look at clinical validity, the technical reliability. Yeah, does it work in all conditions? Cost effectiveness. Does it actually move the needle in terms of lowering the costs, especially in Africa? That's very key. Is it feasible operationally? Can it And that's where workflows come in, like Ken was talking with the example of Watson. Is it operationally feasible within the current SOPs or the current operating frameworks? Then from there, you think also about protecting. Is there something that is protectable in that process? It could be the algorithm, it could be the copyright, trade secrets, data licensing, and all that. Then from there now, you now build the full product. Now you're thinking of usable, you're moving from an MVP to a usable product that can actually be put in the hands of clinicians. Yeah. Then from there, you go now into, of course, regulatory approvals where national medical regulators will come in to make sure that it is well regulated. Then you build a viable business model. Is it going to be a software as a service? Is it going to be licensing? Is it going to be a spin-off? And then form a commercial entity, right? Why some of the research doesn't see the light of the day is that there's no person who wants to take the risk of taking it to market. And we don't need, every researcher doesn't have to become an entrepreneur, but you could hire an entrepreneur, right? You could package this or spin it out or give it to, have an arrangement where a CEO comes in who can commercialize while you continue working on the research. And then from there, you have to raise capital, private capital to scale it. I think I'll stop there because of time. These others were already covered. So I'll stop there, maybe take a few questions. Thank you.
So Wilfred and Ken, are you able to wait after Hein's talk to take questions altogether? Would that be okay?
Sorry?
Would you be able to wait for the next talk? We have another talk.
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. So I see Hein is there. Thanks, Hein, for putting on your screen. I'm just going to introduce you. Thanks for joining us. And Hein is head of commercial AI at Cassava AI. So he joined Cassava Technologies in 2025, and he's head of, as I said, commercial AI at Cassava AI. He brings 30 years of experience driving digital transformation and P&L growth across banking, consulting, and the technology sectors. He leads the commercial strategy and go-to-market execution for the company. And his prior experience prior to Cassava was as CEO of AgriGIS and as well as data and AI technology lead for IBM South Africa. So he has lots of experience. He has deep expertise that spans digital disruption and advanced data analytics with a proven track record of implementing complex technology strategies across industries. So at Cassava, Hein is dedicated to building robust AI ecosystems and driving the adoption of enterprise-grade solutions built on in NVIDIA's software stack. He brings a wealth of knowledge on scaling AI infrastructure and developing impactful commercial frameworks for the digital AI. So we're so glad to have you here, and over to you. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. I just want to check, is my audio clear?
Yes, Hein. Yes, go for it.
Okay, and then I just want a confirmation that my slides are on the screen.
They are, but not in presentation mode.
Okay, should be in presentation mode.
Yes, now.
Okay, everything ready. Okay, full screen. Okay, thank you for that introduction. So it's Hein Badenhorst. I'm going to step through a couple of slides just to explain to you who Cassava Technologies is, because I think that's quite important setting for us to understand and talk about, let's call it end-to-end digital solutions and transformations across the continent. Look, Cassava Technologies is a holding company, and we have 5 operating divisions underneath that legal entity. So from a connectivity perspective, Liquid Intelligent Technologies, it is one of the largest fiber organizations on the continent. We also provide satellite communication as well. We operate subsea cable systems, and we literally built our own fiber network from Cape Town to Cairo, from Nigeria to Kenya, and a few countries in between. So we've got quite an extensive fiber network across the continent. The other or the next operating entity is our cloud and cybersecurity business. And this is where the majority of our managed services and hyperscaler relationships sit. So we've got deep partnerships with Microsoft, AWS, Google. Google is also an investor in our organization. We're the largest Microsoft Azure partner for Microsoft across the Africa continent. And from a cybersecurity perspective, we actually run 5 security centers across the continent for many of our clients, including banking organizations. So that is quite a robust and full-fledged value-added services organization. I'm going to jump to our co-location because this is really important from a Africa perspective. We've got a company called Africa Data Centers. We operate and own 5 data centers across the continent and 3 in South Africa, 1 in Kenya, 1 in Nigeria, and some plans to expand to other locations across the continent. But I'll explain where that fits in. But we operate tier 3 and tier 4 data centers. And basically what that implies, we are well positioned to service any type of use cases, hosting solutions and applications, because that is enterprise grade, compliant to all the ISO certifications. But I think the more important thing is that the banks and the hyperscalers trust us. So they also host their core infrastructure in our data centers. The next one that we have as part of our operating entities is a organization called Sasai, very much a payments organization, and we do anything from point of sale solutions for airlines like British Airways, Singapore Airlines, FlySafair. We also provide payment solutions for organizations like ABSA, Oracle, and a few others. But the new kid on the block is our compute business, Cassava AI, which I represent. And this is where we are investing quite substantially into AI technology and infrastructure for the continent. And I'd like to sort of give you some insights to what we are doing at the moment. So if you've been following us in the public domain, you would know that our group chairman has got very close working relationships with NVIDIA and quite a few of the large AI technology service providers or organizations. And that sort of brought to life the concept of building AI factories for Africa on the continent. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the illustration of the Africa continent. So a couple of things to highlight. One, we're starting in South Africa. We'll be expanding by putting data center capabilities down in Egypt, Morocco. We'll expand in Kenya and Nigeria. And we own the physical fiber network between those countries. So from a core infrastructure perspective, I think we are extremely well positioned, starting building out in phases. The AI factory in Cape Town is our first phase, then expanding across the continent. And we work in very close relationship, not only with NVIDIA, but the actual hardware OEMs as well. And depending on support, maintenance, business support structures, technical support structures per country, we've got the options to pick between Lenovo, HPE, Dell, Supermicro, whatever the case is, that is fit for purpose for the country. But the point being is that we'll be bringing GPU as a service to the continent. I think we've been sort of neglected over a number of years from a continent perspective around core infrastructure capabilities. And I think our Cassava strategy to roll out AI factories across the continent is going to be a tremendous asset for the clients, the countries, and everything else in between. Now, just to elaborate a little bit more on why we also structured our strategy around building AI factories for the continent. I think we take a multi-dimension perspective when we talk about sovereignty, because I do think this is becoming a really significant requirement, not only from the regulators, but even for many organizations who wants to protect their own intellectual property. So the way that we talk about it and feel very passionate around how we guarantee sovereignty is a couple of things. So first of all, the Africa data centers, we house all the data and the AI infrastructure in our data centers, and it's located in South Africa and rolling out across the continent. So from that perspective, we guarantee that data never leaves the continent or our data centers. Then connecting to the data centers is through dedicated high-speed fiber networking technologies. And because we control the fiber and even subsea cable systems, routing and all those sort of things, but we can guarantee that when we route between our clients or data centers to our data center, we guarantee the routing it takes, and therefore we can also guarantee that we won't be routing traffic across Europe or the US or whatever the case is. So that's quite important. The next thing is what we refer to as operational sovereignty. So for instance, if you remember the AWS DNS hiccup from last year, I think it was sort of October, November, globally, everybody felt that impact. We had services hosted in AWS, and even in South Africa, we had quite a few clients feeling the pain. But the point being is that all controlling infrastructure for the data centers, for the fiber networking, for the AI technologies is housed in our data centers. We're not dependent on any controlling infrastructure across Europe, US, wherever. So we talk about operational sovereignty as well. And then the last dimension that we usually talk about is regulatory sovereignty. As you know, AI regulations across the globe has got many flavors. The US has got their version, EU has got their version, UK, Canada, Middle and Far East. Everybody's got their version of how they want to regulate AI. And we also know these international or foreign regulators can be quite stringent on how they want to regulate the AI. And even nowadays, if you look at the US Cloud Act, that's also quite an interesting new dynamic that organizations need to think about. But the point being is that if we talk about regulatory sovereignty, we only have to comply to the regulations as presented by the regulators across the Africa countries. Make no mistake, we still, because we operate tier 3 and tier 4 data centers, we still comply to all the ISO standards. We still need to comply to POPIA. We still need to comply to GDPR because of the clients we host in our data centers. So we do that for good measure. But when it comes to AI, it can get complex very, very quickly. And therefore, if you adopt, for instance, an open source model that was created overseas, and you house it inside our data center, we host it, you train it, customize it, wrap it around with your IP, we can keep that safeguarded inside our data centers. Just elaborating quickly on our relationships with NVIDIA, because I do think this is once again the crux of what the story is I'm presenting today. The first thing is we've been certified by NVIDIA as an NVIDIA Cloud Partner. And basically what that implies is we can take the entire concept of an AI factory, which includes the infrastructure, the software, and the services, and present it as a service to clients. The second important thing from that perspective is that NVIDIA is also an investor into our organization. So we've got very good and deep relationships with NVIDIA, and this also ties into the AI services component, and I'll explain that a bit in a bit more detail. But the other key thing for us was being part of being a NVIDIA Cloud Partner gave us the opportunity to create the AI factory to be a multi-tenant AI factory. And basically what that implies is that we can service large enterprise, academia institutions, government, SOEs, startups, and even NGOs, because it gives us that flexibility. It's purposed by design to be that flexible so that we can present the AI factory as a capability or an asset for everybody on the continent. So that was really important from a strategy perspective for us. And then dealing with the concept of the AI factory itself. And I'll talk a bit more detail around the infrastructure on the next slides. But the key thing from being certified as a cloud partner for NVIDIA, we get access to the open ecosystems environment. So the NVIDIA AI enterprise software stack has already got pre-built frameworks, reference architectures, blueprints, tools, etc., that can be consumed as part of getting access to the NVIDIA AI enterprise software stack, but also all the other contributors that's created components that can reliably run on the software, the NVIDIA software. So that's quite important for us to be able to leverage other open ecosystems, role players, and there's quite a few out there that's been participating in that open ecosystems environment. Then from an AI services perspective, there's a couple of things that we are very, very passionate about. One is being able to do a lot of AI advisory services to our clients. And the way that we've built up our competency around that is that we, as a large organization operating across numerous countries across the Africa continent, we've got operations in South America, we've got operations in India. We are fairly complex, large corporate. And the way that we've approached it is by driving two core AI strategies as a corporate. One is a AI-infused strategy. So basically what that is we've got dedicated teams looking at how to apply AI inside our own organization. We then productize it, scale it, and then we drive a AI diffuse strategy where we can take these offerings to market. And a good example with quite a few of these offerings that we've taken to market is been launched at NVIDIA's GTC last month, and also at MWC, which is large conferences for telcos, is the concept of autonomous networks. And that all builds around agentic AI technology with proper end-to-end workflows, controls, checks, and balances. But the point being is we are very competent at developing and delivering AI solutions, and we can also play a big role in the advisory capability because we are a fairly well-competent team, and we often partner with NVIDIA where we don't necessarily have the expertise, or through our relationship with NVIDIA get access to global players that's got the deep technical expertise if we're not able to solve a particular requirement from a client perspective. Now, when you start developing AI technologies or machine learning models, I think we're all very familiar that parallel computing or GPU computing is a very important factor to consider. We spent quite a bit of time selecting the GPU technology. Now, we went with the NVIDIA HGX H200s. Also, to be very transparent around these technologies, the US government has to give approval for importing large volumes of these H200s. You would have picked up that Supermicro was in a bit of trouble last week or 2 weeks ago where they didn't do proper due diligence for the end client, where the client was actually a Chinese citizen and organization, and the regulator is now investigating how did the H200s get to China unauthorized. But the point being is that we went through quite an extensive process selecting the technology because it's really important in the context of creating and training, customizing, and running large language models or other foundational models. But the other more important thing is with the H200s, it was consuming 50% less power compared to its predecessor, which immediately implied that from a data center capacity perspective, we could double the amount of GPUs we had to put in our data hall. So that was a really important consideration. But the other key thing is when you start playing around with these AI technologies and you've got very complex models that you want to run, GPU memory is really important. And basically what that implies is, if I can show you by some photographs on our data center, what these servers look like. So the middle server is a GPU node. Each node carries 8 H200 NVIDIA GPUs. And as you can see that they are very closely coupled, which basically implies that you've got about 1.2 terabytes worth of GPU memory constantly available inside that configuration. So when you start running these very complex models, there's a big challenge around loading the model into memory to cut down model latencies. But you also need to get some really clever things going if you want to get into the real-time space by potentially putting your vector database into memory as well. So it becomes complex very quickly. But the idea is that we've got the core capability to handle any of those types of requirements. On the right-hand side is just a rack configuration. So you can see there's 4 GPU nodes in a rack. And then the left-hand side shows you how the data center hall looks like from a row perspective. Now, just to put it into perspective, this investment was quite substantial. We've got 2,048 of these GPUs. And the rack configuration top left diagram picture, you'll see there's a rack, 3 blank spaces, a rack, 3 blank spaces. So it's a GPU node rack, storage nodes, networking nodes, GPU nodes. And the main reason for all the space in between the racks is to keep everything cool. Now, once again, to put it into perspective, this particular data hall consumes 3 megawatts worth of power. That's to run the technologies, the GPU factory, but also the cooling plants required to be able to keep everything cool. And then just how we present these capabilities to our clients is through our AI offerings that we refer to. Our first phase is going live actually at the end of this month, phase 2 at the end of May, and phase 3 will also probably be delivered during the month of May. But clients or even startups, research, academia, often ask the question, how do you get access to these GPUs? And we've got 5 permutations. So our first AI offering is bare metal as a service. This is usually for highly regulated environments where the client or the organization, like a government institution, needs to take full control of a bare metal node. We give them direct connectivity, high-speed connectivity to that bare metal node. They take full control of it. We just make sure that from a microcode perspective and a physical hardware perspective, there's a proper support and maintenance contracts in place, breakage, repairs, and all those sort of things. But the client then can deploy their own software, security, all those sort of interesting things on top of that. The next one is GPU as a service, and we've got 3 permutation: on demand versus reserved versus spot. And once again, these 2 main offerings is around the concept of infrastructure as a service. And what we've also done from a pricing perspective to keep it really attractive for many of the organizations we deal with, because we know that usually if you deal with the European or US counterparts on this type of technology, there's quite attractive pricing. But as soon as you look at their pricing for a equivalent service in South Africa or potentially in the rest of Africa, there's usually a premium uplift that they charge Africa. And what we've done is we've benchmarked our pricing to be commercially attractive compared to international prices, but we didn't penalize Africa by uplifting the requirement because of scarcity, all those sort of things, because we were very deliberate in our investment strategy behind this, build an AI factory at scale, and we can at least present this capability to our clients and organizations in a transparent manner with cost transparency on how we've concluded our pricing on this. The AI factory as a service is basically a full platform as a service, managed services offering. So this is where you get access to not only the GPU compute components, but you also get access to the fully managed end-to-end platform where you can use it to create any AI technology, machine learning technologies, whatever the case is. And then the last one, AI solutions as a service, is once you've created your technologies and you want to host it as a production instance for clients, we can host it for you as well. So I see Michelle has come on screen. I assume I'm right on time to conclude on my few slides.
Awesome, Hein. That is so exciting. I think many people have anticipated what is going on with Cassava, the data centers, because it, of course, is core to what most of the data scientists are doing with their AI models and all of this. So I hope that there are going to be some questions for you. Oh, there's already one. How do we partner with Hein? But let me start with, before we go to Hein, let me start with the Volgro group. There were 3 questions for them. So I'm going to read all the questions from them, and the 2 are around intellectual property, Wilfred and Ken. So how do we balance between protection of IP and publication of valuable information? So how do you balance when you want to, secure your information, create something, And then, of course, how do you share valuable information with the journals? Because that's the nature of science, sharing this information. And then the other one is the intellectual property process. What is the process from research to commercialization? Maybe if you can just maybe simplify it a bit.
Nancy,
Sorry.
which tribe is Mumpun? MUPUN.
I think maybe someone needs to mute. And then there was another one. For Volgro, you mentioned supporting ventures through product development. How do you currently handle transition from functional prototypes to manufacturing products? Would there be openness for collaborating with an external team focused specifically on the accelerating stage? So probably this is more at an advanced stage of product, and then to accelerate the product, do you come in at various stages? So those are for Volgro. I hope they were clear. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, we can take, and whichever is not clear we can ask again. So maybe on the issue of balancing between protecting IP and publication, I'll invite Dr. Ken to chime in on that, and then I'll take the other one. Ken, are you there?
Yeah. So thanks, Wilfred, and thanks for the question. Yeah. So a lot of research is grant funded, and a lot of the donors who fund research require an open access. So you need to make your data widely available at free cost or at no cost to others to use. So typically, there's built-in provisions to allow you to patent that data or that information. So if you think there is something critical that needs to be patented or can be patented, not every research output can be patented. But if you think there is something critical that needs to be patented, you then have to work perhaps if it's donor funded with the donor to delay the publication until you protect it. But also you could also publish it in a way that you do not disclose the intellectual property behind the algorithms, for example, if that is what you are trying to patent. So there are ways to go around it, and they are built in normal global access agreements that you typically would sign with a donor. Thanks. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Ken. And what was the other question around commercialization? Sorry.
I think there was a question around at which stage can you assist a company, or can they get involved if you're already at the point of where you accelerate the product, so it's a mature phase already.
Yes, they can come in, and thank you. Intron, I think we are able to come at any. So there was a question from from Intron. Yes, we are willing to support at any stage. And I know we've actually worked. If you know, Jazza Rift Ventures, Vuegro Africa is a partner there. So I'll put my email on the chat for anyone who wants to contact us, including a question from Abigail, which was around which stages do we support. We are happy to support you through from product development to go to market to scale. The only thing we don't support is ideas, right? So beyond an idea, at least you have a functional prototype, then we are able to work. So let me put my email here, because those are very specific questions that you can always reach out to us, and we'll guide you on the right pathway. Yeah. So email is wilfred@vuegroafrica.org. There's a question also on IP being expensive. So what we do if we like your innovation and you're able to get funding from Vuegro, then you could use part of the funding for your IP and for your filing, right? So if you are eligible for funding, which is we give up to $50,000, that means if it was necessary to patent, we could put that as a milestone tied to the funding. But these are case by case. So please drop me a line on my email where you can go into the details, so that we can discuss more detail. Thank you.
Can I just add on that?
Yes.
While Vilgro will not look at an idea, but it's important for whoever is an innovator to actually start testing the industry, either work with the industry or other users, so that by the time you approach Vilgro or other incubators, you already have identified some of the key issues that we mentioned earlier, who probably would use this, how it would be used, and who would pay for it. Thanks.
Thanks, Wilfred and Ken. So Umar has you have your hand up. Do you want to talk? Umar, Adam, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you unmute. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. Wonderful presentation. My question goes to the first speaker. I think that is Vilgro. So the question is, are you for profit or non-profit? If you're for profit, what's your, how do you, what's the revenue generation strategy? Well, I've been working in an area like this for 3-4 years. It has been challenging in terms of revenue, funding, and the rest. Can you share a practical experience? And yeah.
Okay, so the first part, we are both for profit and non-profit. We're able to raise grants from donors, and we are able to deploy some of those grants to innovators, either as investment or as grants. We also have a for-profit side of the company, which is now able to give equity investment. So we have a hybrid structure. So we have a non-profit and also a for-profit. What was the second part of your question?
The second part is, how do you engage donors and how do you get funding?
Yes, so like any other organization, is through many ways, right? First of all, you meet them in conferences, you're able to network. There's also inbound referrals. A lot of people, when they think of healthcare innovation in Africa, they are referred to Vilgro, and they are the first people to reach out. In fact, we are getting more and more inbound referrals as we continue to grow. So multiple ways of fundraising that we use. Yeah. The other question from Getachew was on the process, whether we should we develop the product and then seek approvals after. So it depends on the regulatory framework of your country, but keep the regulator involved even in the early stages, even before you build the product. You should talk to the regulator to map the pathway. It will differ from Ethiopia to Uganda to Kenya. That's one of the challenges we are facing in Africa, that the regulatory pathway is not harmonized. It is country to country. So the process I showed doesn't have to apply in every country. In some countries, maybe you might need to start with the regulator to make sure whatever you're trying to build is actually allowed and is regulated within your country, especially with AI solutions, right? You need the regulators are catching up, so you need to be educating them along the way. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Wilfred and Ken. You clearly have lots of experience working in different African countries with different regulators, with funders, different models. So really great to hear from you. And I think it's inspirational that you can actually take, research to implementation stage, which is really what we need. Okay, there's a question I think that was for Intron, but I just want to give Hein an opportunity now. There were two folks on the chat asking to partner with you. How do they get hold of you? How do they set up a meeting with you? So you are welcome to either share an email address, that you're happy to share with people. I think I have two questions, and then I'm going to go to Mojave. So I'm very curious about the model of how Cassava works. So what does it cost to build a data center, sort of the one you're building in Cape Town? What does that cost and who's paying for it? And then you also had a nice diagram of you work with very sort of complex organizations and then all the way down to an NGO. And from what I've understood from Strive, when he spoke in Kigali, he said that the data centers are going to be there to support individual independent data scientists as well, and giving them some GPUs at a lower cost. Is that a reality now? Are you going to be able to support individuals or smaller groups? And do you come in at a lower cost for them? What is the structure at the moment? Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So let's start with the easy portion. Just remember, when I showed that diagram with the AI factory in the middle, we talked about a multi-tenancy orchestrated platform, and very much it is designed to even enable a one-man startup organization all the way through to large enterprises. When we start talking about the commercial structures behind the different offerings, it's probably very frustrating for many clients when I say it depends, because one, we're very flexible when it comes to our commercial models for many reasons, because there's so many considerations when we start talking about how to structure a commercial model and proposal for a business partner, for a client, for a startup. And it basically boils down to understanding what is the problem we're trying to solve. For instance, if it's a research type environment, we do offer what we refer to as GPU as a service spot rate. So that's where you get access to severely discounted GPU as a service pricing, with a caveat that one, if the capacity is available, you consume it. But as soon as we need that, you allocate it back to the other reserved instances on demand. You lose access to it. So it's usually geared for large research, long-running jobs that's been designed in any case with stop and starts and validations and manual check-ins, because you don't want to kick off a job, run for 3 weeks, and then only check and then find out that something went wrong and you start again. That's a rather costly exercise. But that's one way of addressing the cost base. Obviously, the longer you sign contracts for the volumes of GPUs, we've got quite a few of those commercial models in play. But we're also busy formalizing partnership models. So, for instance, we're driving a startup program through the Liquid C2 business called the Falcon Program. And if you're a startup, we engage through that mechanism. We do an assessment on what is your actual requirements, and then we come up with something that is appropriate for that particular arrangement. All the way through to, we are busy working on partnership agreements with Accenture, with Deloitte, the global SIs, the local integrators like Business Connection, IOCO, etc. So it always depends, unfortunately, the type of organization, the type of outcome that we're trying to achieve. But the whole point is we try and be very flexible in our commercial models. I think I shared my email address in the group.
You have.
Then if people want to reach out, happy for you to get in touch with me on email. Then we can set up a quick first discussion, and then we can figure out, do we work through the Falcon program or our business partnership programs, or if you've got a solution that you want to host, then it becomes almost easier getting straight into a commercial design. Quite happy for people to reach me on the email.
Tumai had a question. She was talking about its industry is quite intimidating, but now I can't see it. Tumai, do you want to speak to your question?
I think he answered the question when he was answering yours.
Okay, lovely.
Okay.
Anyone else? Sorry, I'm trying to scroll through the questions. James, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So I was going to ask Hein if they're basically what the entry level ecosystem is like for talent at Cassava, and basically, is there an internship program we could probably plug into for like master's graduates coming out of training programs across the continent? This could be looking at placements either Nigeria or South Africa, and they could be in person or remote.
Yeah, so Cassava as a organization, we do run internship programs. And it's a formal program that we drive for many reasons, but one, our passion in creating opportunities for entrance into the employment market to get proper experience. So typically, our interns are usually paired with very senior individuals inside our organization, and it's driven as a formal program. If you're interested, please reach out to me, and then I can get you in touch with our teams who drives the internship programs. And if that mechanism doesn't work, we can always have a conversation and see how do we find other means for growing the talent and skills and expertise.
Yep. I think we need to wrap up now. Francis, or how are we for time? So yeah, I think it's really amazing to see these opportunities from Cassava Technologies and from Volgrow Africa. I think it's really encouraging, actually, with the crazy world we're living in at the moment, to see that what we can do in Africa and it's for Africa. I really like that, and that we can reach out to folks. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to our speakers. Thank you for taking the time, and we will follow up with you for further engagements, because I think it's quite a lot, to absorb, and we have more folks in our communities that we would like you to engage with. So with the next network exchange or next meeting, we will invite you again. So look out for us. So Francis, do you want to conclude? Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Michelle. So I think the last item on our agenda is the evaluation survey. I am sharing my slide now. There's a QR code. I have also put in the chat the link to the evaluation survey, and I will really appreciate if you all could complete the survey, because it helps us to refine the networking exchanges that we organize, and also try our best to improve on the event. So far I see only 11 responses. I'm hoping that we get a lot of feedback. The second thing is that the sessions were recorded. The various breakout sessions were also recorded, and then it will be made available on the DS Africa YouTube channel, as I did indicate earlier on during the opening of the event. The various presentation slides that were being presented on is also currently being made available on the DS Africa website. So once you visit the Networking Exchange page, you will see the slides there. There's a tab for presentation slides. There's a comment to include contact info where you post the slides. Okay, so is it contact for the presenters? Just reply in the chat. And then, okay, great. So we will put the contact information there as well. Yes. There's another question in the chat. Are there opportunities for sponsored programs, workshops, and trainings? At the moment, they're only sponsored fellowship is for delegates that would want to participate in the upcoming DS Africa network, the DS Africa Consortium meeting happening in Mombasa. And that registration unfortunately closed on March 31st. But then if you would want to engage with various DS Africa projects, as you could see outlined on the DS Africa website, you can reach out to the coordinating center, and then we can put you in contact with specific projects of interest. So I think that is the end of the 7th DS Africa Virtual Networking Exchange. We had interesting attendance and various interesting engagements. at the various sessions that we organized. I really appreciate your feedback from the survey to help us improve the sessions. I'll also email you all the link to the evaluation survey and pointers to where the slides are, and then pointers to where the recordings are uploaded so that you can revisit some of the sessions that you missed. I think I'll end it here. Thank you all to the various facilitators and moderators that helped us to put together this event. We really appreciate your time and effort, your dedication to making this event a success. We will meet and plan for the next networking exchange. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.